Hey, everybody. Welcome to the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy, and this is our exciting holiday episode. Happy holidays, Matt, Jen.
Happy holidays.
Happy Hanukkah.
Did you guys do anything exciting this week or anything exciting planned for the week?
All I can say is, Andy, happy Hanukkah. It's come early for you this year because you've been a very, very good boy. Hanukkah Harry has brought you lots of presents this year.
And we're going to talk about all those in a second. I think all the good Jews and Christians and Muslims throughout the world were gifted quite generously this week. And we're gonna run through that. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. We're also very excited that today's guest is Cheryl Hines, and that's going to be a really fun conversation. So stick with us. So busy week, crazy busy week. Lots happening this week. Last night, J6 report, January 6th committee report released. 18 months, 100 subpoenas, 1,200 interviews, collection of hundreds of thousands of documents. This is an 800-page scathing indictment of Donald Trump and his henchmen in their efforts to steal the election and overthrow the government. Crazy stuff. The difference between this report and the Mueller report is that this one is so clear. It is like 8 methodical chapters. It's like a movie. It reads like a movie.
And the other advantage of this report is we don't have Attorney General Barr to make a synopsis of it and keep us from knowing what it actually says.
Yeah, and interestingly, when you bring up the Justice Department and the Attorney General, unlike with the Mueller report, we know that the Department of Justice is already knee-deep in a grand jury investigation into this. And so what this is going to do is not necessarily change the course of that investigation, but it just gives them more information, more evidence, and perhaps enhances the work they're already doing. And so the funny part to me was like each chapter, the titles of the chapters, I don't know if you've gone through these things, but like the first one is called The Big Lie. The next one is called I Just Want to Find 11,780 Votes. I mean, they literally named the chapters after like all these horrifying Trump attempts at insurrection and overthrowing the government. But one thing that's really interesting that's come out of this is that the report really strongly recommends to Congress that they implement the 14th Amendment, which is to ban anyone from running for office if they've been engaged in an insurrection. That, they quote from the report, says the central cause of January 6th was one man, former President Donald Trump, who many others followed. None of the events of January 6th would have happened without him. And so we've known for weeks now that, and we've heard about the infighting between like one camp versus the other, where like Cheney wanted to structure this report so that it really is focused almost entirely on Trump. And it seems like that's what this is in large part. But it also talks about, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Jeffrey Clark, who was the flunky Justice Department guy that Trump wanted to put in as acting Attorney General, Kenneth Cheeseborough, who is part of the fake elector scheme. These are all potential co-conspirators as named in this report. So it does go beyond the scope of Trump himself, but it really is just a fascinating thing in terms of like some of the new stuff we're learning, like Cassidy Hutchinson, former White House aide. We learned through transcripts that there was a lawyer that was given to her when all this shit started going down, this guy named Stefan Passantino. And so he's just like a Trump flunky. And her lawyer is trying to convince her to not testify or to alter her testimony. And he said to her, we just want to focus on protecting the president. We all know you're loyal. Let's just get you in and out. And this day will be easy. I promise. The less you remember, the better. This is her attorney that was telling her this. So the conspiracy is so vast and so shameless from top to bottom, from left to right, just sideways, up, down. It is unbelievable, but it is so clear. But as everybody keeps saying, those who hate Trump will love this report. Those who love Trump will hate this report. But the key takeaway is the Justice Department doesn't give a fuck about any of that, right? They don't care. They're doing their thing, and he's going to get indicted. I have no doubt. And when he gets indicted, his crowd, his base, the MAGAs, they're going to be really upset. And you know what? Who gives a shit? So there's a part of this whole J6 committee report, the politicalization of it. Trump said on Truth Social last night, it's just highly partisan. But who cares? We pay no attention to this noise and let the Justice Department do what they've got to do. I don't know. What did you guys make of all this overnight?
I really appreciate what you're saying because, watching it on TV, they alluded to the fact that that Cassidy Hutchinson was being bullied, but this time you actually find out why. And I do appreciate that that it is very detailed. It makes it more difficult to view it as partisan when you have direct quotes. And they brought out so many people who are Republican. So I'm very, very happy and hopeful.
Yeah, I've been skimming the report, and it is huge. It's going to take weeks for me to get through this at 845 pages. And I liked that they did 7 chapters on the conspiracy, and then the 8th chapter is on the events of January 6th. And basically it spells out an incomprehensible amount of conspiracy on the president's part. And the end notes, I want everyone to look at the end notes because those are really incredible. It's so detailed that it's overwhelming.
Yeah. And you'll probably be able to get through the report much quicker if you just stop reading all those romance novels, man, because those are just a waste of time. They're really a waste of time. By the way, I forgot to say this at the beginning. You may notice a difference in our sound today. It's because it's the holidays. I'm away and, we're doing this remote. So we don't have that amazing equipment we have every week. Just doing this like every schmuck over Zoom. So, but it's the content that counts, folks, right? The content. Cassidy Hutchinson also in her testimony, we reread again that she said of Mark Meadows, former White House chief of staff, she says he said something to the effect of, he knows it's over. He knows he lost, but we are going to keep trying. And this is the biggest takeaway of anything this January 6th report is going to show, because intent is absolutely critical to indictment and hopefully conviction, because the evidence has to be there overwhelmingly without a shred of doubt that he knew he lost and that he was plowing forward with the lies anyway, and all connected to J6. So this stuff is just so key. And, earlier in the week, the committee put forth its criminal referrals to the Justice Department for major federal crimes that they say Trump committed. And others, like John Eastman, one of his lawyers. Number 1, obstruction of official proceeding. Number 2, conspiracy to defraud the United States. 3, conspiracy to make a false statement. 4, insurrection. I mean, just you think about it, how mind-blowing this is that a former president has been the subject of a criminal referral from a bipartisan congressional committee for insurrection. I mean, I remember as a kid watching The Manchurian Candidate and thinking like, whoa, this could never happen, but it's a great movie. But like, that movie sucks compared to the real life version, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. Truly unbelievable.
You didn't realize the real movie to watch was Idiocracy.
Yeah. The committee also referred to the Justice Department, Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs from Arizona, and Pennsylvania's Scott Perry for defying subpoenas. So there's a lot of people involved in this whole mess. The other thing we learned this week, we saw Trump's tax returns. And not shockingly, he pays almost no taxes. He has little income. He has massive losses almost every year. He's taken fraudulent deductions, unsubstantiated deductions. He lied about being audited, and he's basically broke. But the biggest takeaway for me, the fun takeaway, was that we learned that he deducted $70,000 for hairstyling, fucking money back. But his barber, should be thrown in jail. I mean, this is the crime of the century, that he spent $70,000 to end up with a dead orange animal on his head. Anyway, so we got a little clip here we want to play for you.
Every year they audit me. I will absolutely give my return, but I'm being audited now for 2 or 3 years, So I can't do it until the audit is finished, obviously. You never give a tax return when you're being audited. Do you know I get audited every single year? But I can't release tax returns when there's an audit. Because it's under audit. I'll release them when the audit's completed. Nobody would release when it's under audit. I've had audits for 15 or 16 years. Every year I have a routine audit. Under audit, when the audit's complete, I'll release them. Almost every lawyer says you don't release your returns until the audit's complete. When the audit's complete, I'll do it. Well, I'm not releasing the tax returns because, as you know, they're under audit.
The president is under audit. It's a routine one. It continues. We're under the same audit that existed, and so nothing has changed.
As I've told you, they're under audit. They have been for a long time. They're extremely complex. People wouldn't understand them. We're under audit, despite what people said, and we're working that out. As I'm always under audit, it seems, but I've been under audit for many years because the numbers are big, and I guess when you have a name, you're audited. But until such time as I'm not under audit, I would not be inclined to do that.
I mean, if it wasn't so laughable, it would be absolutely, utterly infuriating. And I'm sure I have no one in the MAGA cult listening to this podcast. But if you're out there. This guy blatantly lied to you through his teeth for years. There were no audits. We saw that this week. We also learned through these tax returns that the IRS is pretty inept. They're supposed to audit every president every year. It happened to Obama. It happened to Bush. It happened to Clinton. Suddenly, when it came to Trump, no audits. Okay. And so we are now learning why he fought like an animal to keep these things private, because he's just a broke ass fraud. And he just has been lying and lying and lying. And so once we get through with Trump, we got to figure out what the hell happened at the IRS. I want to play another clip for you.
Had tweets put out that were fantastic. I don't know if you saw that, but we had on Twitter, I put out statements and I put out other statements that were so beautiful, and nobody uses them. Nobody brings it up. They were well read. I even did a documentary, more or less. I did a statement from the lawn on camera that was deleted. And it was go home and go peacefully and do all of the things. You know that. It wasn't even talked about. Essentially, we have all Democrats and Republicans in very poor standing, two of them. I mean, the whole thing. It's a kangaroo court. What can I say?
It's a kangaroo court. Yeah, of course. So this is Trump whining like the little bitch he is, but he's in some deep shit. Real quick, a couple of things that happened this week. We had a $1.6 trillion spending bill that was passed, avoiding a government shutdown. I think that goes to the Senate today. But the biggest thing in that has nothing to do with spending, and that's that they reformed the Electoral Count Act. So what this is going to do is protect the future from a president saying, my vice president can go into Congress and just throw out all the electors, not certify the election, and we can put our own electors in. So it's kind of like saying what shouldn't need to be said, saying what hasn't needed to be said for the 200 and some odd years of our history, but codifying this is incredibly important. So that's every year they go through this bullshit about the budget. It's just gamesmanship or whatever. This year, there's something in there that's really, really important. Maddie, give us your update on your favorite subject, Twitter and Elon Musk. Big week for him.
It looks like he's threatening to leave Twitter, which of course is not true because nobody would take his job because they'd have to listen to him. And that would be unacceptable for any legitimate CEO. But
he basically said, if anyone who's like stupid enough to take the job, I'm going to be looking for you.
He's basically doubled down on the crazy as usual. So many things went on that they had to reverse. The other thing that we learned is that he is blaming the Fed for the price of Tesla, claiming that the interest rate hikes have done something to Tesla, which hasn't happened to any other car company, as you noted in a tweet. Yep. Basically Tesla is tanking every single day. With each tweet, I think he decreases the value of Tesla.
Yeah. And, I say this all the time. Musk is Trump. Trump is Musk. They're the same guy, the same MO, the same bullshit excuses, the same ginormous insecurities. He could blame the government. He could blame whatever he wants on it. But it's because he's a freaking maniac who's not only destroying Twitter, he's, possibly going to face some serious lawsuits from Tesla shareholders. I smell a huge class action suit coming. The other big news this week, Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, came to the United States, spoke before a joint session of Congress. And also shockingly, Marjorie Taylor Greene was not there. People like Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy, like when they were standing ovations, they were like checking their phones and twiddling their thumbs. I mean, this is just disgusting. Disgusting. As Zelensky said, the money we're giving Ukraine, it isn't charity, it's an investment. And that these people don't understand the importance of funding and protecting and defending a major democratic ally in that part of the world that's fighting a war against Russia. That is treason, in my opinion.
Yes, and according to The Hill, only 86 Republicans, less than half, showed up.
That's disgusting.
I mean, it's just like where we are today, that we can't even, as a country, unite for Ukraine against Russia. Think about that likelihood happening 20, 25 years ago. All right, it's time to get to our interview that we taped earlier in the week with Cheryl Hines. Cheryl, of course, is an Emmy Award-nominated actress, director, and producer. And she's best known for her amazing role as Cheryl David on the Emmy Award-nominated and Golden Globe Award-winning series Curb Your Enthusiasm. She can currently be seen on season 2 of the critically acclaimed HBO Max series The Flight Attendant. And she starred in other series as well, the comedy series Suburgatory, the animated series Son of Zorn, and Three Below, Tales of Arcadia. She's been in starring roles in numerous feature films, including A Bad Mom's Christmas, RV, Wilson, and my favorite, Waitress. She's produced shows for major networks, including School Pride, Hollywood Residential, and the award-winning series Campus Ladies. And she's directed many TV series, as well as the feature film Serious Moonlight, which I produced with Michael Royth, and which was written by my late wife, Adrienne Shelly, and starred Meg Ryan and Tim Hutton.
Cheryl, welcome into the back room.
Thank you, Andy. It's lovely to be here.
How are you?
I'm good. You know, it's the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot, I kind of go in and out of the holiday season. Like
the spirit?
One day I'll be like, oh my God, I've got to get everybody something. And then the next day I'll think, nobody wants crap.
Maybe you should upgrade from crap. Maybe it's the stuff you're giving them that's causing that reaction.
Well, yeah, I don't put a lot of thought into.
I mean, what's your budget? Like, are you going like $5 to $10?
Well, that's also the problem. That's the problem.
You're spending like a ton of money on crap.
Yeah, because I get desperate at the end. I start out like in October, I think, you know what? I'm getting ahead of it this year. And then I don't get ahead of it. I don't buy anything. And then, December like 20th comes around and it's like, balls. I guess I'll go to CVS and
you can stop. You can stop right there. There's nothing at CVS anybody wants.
No, there isn't.
Okay, when you see yourself pulling into the parking lot, like you should probably just turn around. I'm leaving. This is a mistake.
Stop. Nobody needs a heating pad this year. Just go home.
Well,
yeah.
Actually, a good heating pad is pretty. That's not a bad gift.
It is a bad gift. If somebody gives you like a beautiful cashmere sweater and you give them a heating pad, it's like, oh, I didn't know we were going. Okay, I didn't know we were doing that. Okay.
Think about all the possibilities of offending people with CVS gifts. Like, for example, if you gave somebody like hair dye. Hair coloring.
Yeah.
And they open it and they're like,
do
you not like my
roots?
Sure.
Well, no, by the way, somebody very close to me just gave me a package of training sessions with a trainer. And I was like, oh,
nice.
Thank you. I mean, I do already work out, but I hear you and I will go see your trainer.
That's a bold gift.
It's bold.
Be a confident person to give somebody training sessions.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, one year, like in my 20s, I was dating this guy and it was Christmas and he gave me like a whole case, like a whole box of those Andy's mints, the chocolate mints. That was my gift.
with one training session. It was a twofer.
I was very confused because I was like, I don't know how to interpret this at all.
Yeah. I don't get the whole mint with chocolate thing. Like, that seems a little counterproductive, actually.
I like that that's where you draw the line.
Yeah, but you take a chocolate mint, then you kind of need like a mint to negate what you just had with the chocolate mint. So it seems a little duplicative, if I can use that word.
You can, and I'm glad you did.
So what are your holiday plans? Like, are you traveling? Are you sticking around town?
I go to Florida for a week to be with my family, and then I go to Aspen. This year I'm going to Aspen for a week, and I'm bringing the Floridians.
Oh, wow.
They're really going to be slipping on some ice. They're not used to walking around.
Do they even have the clothes? Like,
no,
do they have the equipment, the tools?
No, they don't.
Gear?
They don't. And I keep telling
psyche?
them, please. No, I say you have to bring shoes with traction. I mean, these guys have flip-flops and Crocs. You know what I mean? It's like those aren't going to work in the snow.
Have they ever skied?
Some have. Yeah, I mean, and the first time we went skiing, we skied in our jeans. This was, when I was in my 20s. Yeah, it didn't go well. There's a reason people don't ski in their jeans, because when your jeans get wet because of the snow, it's not comfortable.
No, and it doesn't look kind of cool either.
Oh, we definitely did not look cool. Not only did we ski in our jeans, but then my sister didn't have really a good hat. So she had a Kmart plastic bag that she tied around her head. And then she put like a knit cap on top just to hide it. And then when she wiped out at the bottom of the hill where everybody is, hanging out, she just had the Kmart baggie wrapped around her head. And she's just sitting there in her jeans in the snow like, ah!
So a Kmart bag on her head and mom jeans. That sounds like that's a hot look no matter where you are, on the ski slopes or in the clubs. Like that's a good.
Aspen is gonna love us, is all I'm saying.
And so, how is your mom, Cracklin' Rosie?
Cracklin' Rosie, she's doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Her thing now is she's listen. She doesn't like for me to say how old she is, but she's like 82, and she likes to say, "Yeah, I just love the F word." And then everybody stops and looks at her and is concerned, and she goes, "Fun. I like to have fun. I don't know what y'all were thinking of." And it's like, okay, and we're back.
That's like when your friends go, "Shut the front door," and you're like, "Oh God, thank God they didn't just say what I thought they were going to say." So, and now is Cracklin' Rosie going to ski, or is she just going to be hanging out in the lodge on fire?
No, I decided that it's better to leave her in Florida.
Oh, she's not even
definitely going. No, she doesn't have. Mm-hmm. I'm really worried about her slipping in the snow and ice. She's not built for it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's also a tough time for seniors to be traveling with all the illness flying around.
Yes.
Yeah, a little scary.
And the altitude.
Mm-hmm. Always got the altitude.
There's so many reasons to just stay in Florida.
When I ask you about your childhood, I did a little research on you, and I saw that you were actually born in a town called Frostproof.
No, I wasn't born in. I was born in Miami Beach, but Frostproof. My dad was born in Frostproof. Yeah, and there's a little town in Florida called Frostproof, and it has a lot of orange groves, and it's called Frostproof because it never freezes. Although it did one year, and it made like national news.
Maybe if they would have named themselves something different, it wouldn't have been so, guess what? Yeah. Guess where it was frosty.
Yeah. But yeah, Frostproof. I did spend a lot of time in Frostproof.
And then you went to you were pretty much raised in Tallahassee, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The capital of Florida.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people think it's Miami, but it's not.
Well, there are those people. You ever have a friend who knows every capital of every state, and you just want to smack them? I'm not even sure I know the capital of my own. What's the capital of New York? Albany. Right. There you go. You learn something every day. And so when you first kind of started getting the bug the acting improv bug, was that in Florida, like towards the end of your residence there before you moved to California, or were you doing a lot of stuff in Florida?
I knew. I mean, since middle school, I had been doing plays and musicals, and in high school, I took it very seriously. I mean, all of the plays I was in, and Florida State University is in Tallahassee, and I did a play. I did the Children's Hour with some of the students from Florida State who were so great, and so I was already serious. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And then at some point, yes, I moved down to Orlando, and I went to University of Central Florida, and that's when Universal Studios was opening.
Mm-hmm. And you worked there?
I did. I worked there. I had auditioned when the whole theme park opened. They had a casting call for actors, and we had to line up. We'd run a marathon, and they pin a number to your chest. Like there were over 1,000 actors, and we all had numbers pinned to us. And it was like, okay, 976, step forward. Oh, hi. So then they had us lined up at this big high school there in Orlando, and we would go up on stage 10 by 10, and we would line up like a chorus line, and then they would tell you to step forward, and then they'd ask you a question. Like, I think mine was, what did you have for breakfast? And at the time I thought, oh my God, I hope I have the right answer. And I don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah, wow. What were they looking for?
Well, now that I'm very experienced and wise, I realize, they could just they cut people because you're standing on a big stage, and some people just show up. They see an ad in the newspaper, and they just show up, and they've never been on stage. They've never acted. They just think it sounds great. And so you have people that would step forward and say, my name is Sue, Sally. And
next.
And they're like, okay, thank you. 972, you're excused. 978, you can go.
So what did you, were you like, I had bacon and eggs and oatmeal and a big old glass of frost-free orange juice.
Yes, it was something like that where, I'm like, and I like the Pope. I don't care what anyone says. Am I right? And then so they cut people and kept cutting people. And then at one point they finally had us read scenes, read a monologue. And then they let us go. And then they called us back I might have been called back a few times. But anyway, then I finally got a role.
Was it like a character? Were you like Goofy or something? Or
I wish.
Minnie Mouse?
They had a big sound stage that they dedicated to Alfred Hitchcock, and I don't know who thought of this idea.
The little kids love Hitchcock.
The kids love murder, and so they designed the Bates Motel, and then they had this little bathroom shower that would roll out into the middle of the soundstage. And then they'd open it up, and inside there was a Janet Leigh person, me, who was wearing a flesh-colored bodysuit to make it look like I was naked.
So you literally were in Psycho.
I was in Psycho, and I got stabbed with a rubber knife like 12 times a day. Jeez. In my little Janet Leigh wig, and that was I was so happy. I was a professional actress.
That's alternately horrifying and awesome at the same time.
Yeah, it's a lot when you really look back at it.
It's a good thing you didn't get typecast.
I'm just like in horror movies from this day on.
The girl that gets killed in the shower. No, we don't. No, that's all people are going to remember.
Yeah, it's the one thing she does. We don't need that in this one.
And so when you were in Florida, besides Disney, did all like the typical actory crappy jobs happen there, or was that like when you went to LA, like Waitress?
Oh no, I had crappy jobs. I worked out on a remember the 900 numbers when people would.
No, I don't remember those at all.
No,
especially
I don't know
not
what
the
you're
sex
talking about.
ones. I've never even heard of the sex ones.
Well, I worked on a 900 number, and it was 1-900-999 chat, CHAT. And so people could call in and they could chat with each other. That was the monitor. So I would look at a computer screen and I'd see a new caller and I'd say, hey, new caller, where are you from? And they'd say, oh, this is Eminem and I'm from Detroit. I'd be like, hey, Eminem, welcome. And then everybody would start talking. And then if two people wanted to talk on a private line, my name was Cookie. They would say, Cookie, can you beam me up? And that meant that I could talk to them privately. And they'd say, can you ask Eminem if she wants to go on a private line with me? And then I could connect them on a private chat line. But they were not allowed to have, like, what's it called? Phone sex. So I would say.
How would you know if they were on a private line?
Well, because I could keep checking in on them to make sure they were having. And of course, people were
I'm
always
already
having
envisioning.
They were always having phone sex. And the other monitors, there were a few of us in the same room, and we would go, "Ooh, I got one," and then we'd put them on speaker and we'd turn it up, and then we'd all gather around.
But what would you do? Like if you if you piped into the call and you heard like, "Oh yeah, grab me by what would be happening?
Well,
would you be like, "Hey guys, stop, time out"?
Yes.
Put your balls back in your pants. Over there.
It was like, you guys, Eminem, I told you, you're not allowed to have phone sex. But one night we were listening, and it always started out the same way. It was always the guy would say to the girl, what are you wearing? And she'd say, nothing but high heels.
It's always nothing.
And then the girl would say, what do you do? And he was always a doctor or a lawyer. And then so we're listening, and then the girl says to the guy, how big are you? And he was like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah. She's like, how big are you? And he goes, oh, about 4 inches. And then one of the girls that was listening in,
stupid.
She pipes in and she goes, hello, you're on the phone. You could at least lie about it. And then they were like, what? Who's listening? Anyway, we entertained ourselves all night long.
Oh my God! I gotta say, I'm seeing a TV series.
Yeah, 1-900-9. Well, you know what? One night, the person that did the joke line, 1-900-999 joke, they didn't show up, so I had to do the joke line, and it's just a book of like bad jokes, and so people would call in and say, I don't understand what this line is for, because they would show an ad for it. And I'd say, oh, what did the grape say when the elephant sat on it? They were like, are you kidding? What? Nothing. It just let out a little whine. And they're like, that's not even a funny joke. What is this?
And they're paying $3.99 a minute for that?
Yeah.
For that
just going through joke
eclectic
after
humor?
joke. And people are so angry at me. And they're like, are you just reading jokes from a book? I was like, why don't cannibals eat clowns? And they're like, no, just stop. I go, listen, you're the one that called me. And I'm like, do you not want to know why cannibals don't eat clowns? And they're like, why? Because they taste funny. And they're like, it's not funny. I'm like,
and by the way, how big are you? How big am I?
That was one of that. So that was one of my dumb jobs.
That's it. Yeah. But that's. I mean, usually you hear people like, I was pulling weeds out of a parking lot, or I was a waitress. But that's a great
good job.
Yeah, and you got great stories from that. I mean, you could tell that story. Is that embellished
to
at
my
all?
grandkids?
That story? Is that like authentic?
Not
all the way, or
it is 100% authentic. I mean, you can imagine. Remember those 900?
I do, sadly.
I was one of the people.
I still call them, Cheryl. I'm a VIP, so I have like a lifetime membership. I'm paying like $982 a minute right now.
Well, that's the thing. That's what was really sad is like people they would run up their phone bills. It was kind of sad because clearly it seemed like these people had
no life.
They were lacking in social skills.
Mm-hmm.
So but on this chat line, they found each other and they
brought their 4 inches and they were rolling with it.
But they would run up these high, like $10,000 phone bills.
Jesus, imagine explaining that to your wife.
Listen, I'm on a chat line. I get cut off if we try to have phone sex. Don't worry. And I spend a little bit of time on the joke line, but also worth it.
Yeah, I'll keep it under 5,000 this time, honey. So how long after you went to LA did you quote unquote, like when did you make it? When did you realize, like, all right, I'm onto something here. It's happening. And what was that job?
Well, I moved to LA when I was 25.
Mm-hmm.
I got Curb Your Enthusiasm when I was 35.
Oh, wow.
So,
didn't know that.
yeah. So it was 10 years of bartending, waiting tables. At some point, I started studying at the Groundlings Theater, which was changed my life. And Lisa Kudrow was my first teacher, and I really loved it there. And from there, I started getting auditions for little things. Like I think one of my first jobs was on Suddenly Susan. I think I had one line, maybe two. I couldn't tell you what they were. Something like, "Yes, I know."
I'm shivering right now just listening to you say that here. And so
oh
you
my
got a
God,
sense
when
that it
you're
was
on
starting to happen, right? Like you were getting.
Well,
like
I was
I
at least
imagine you could tell, right?
Well, yes. At some point, I was auditioning for pilots. And so that's when you're at least in the running, which is amazing.
And you had an agent and a manager at that time?
No, I just had an agent. I had an agent, but it was mostly because of being in the Groundlings. Because people can see you perform, and they can come watch you and see, instead of somebody just calling and saying, "Oh, will you look at this person?" But I remember I auditioned for remember Brian Benben?
No.
Brian Benben.
You just made that up, didn't you? That's not a real. That's not
now
a real
I feel
person,
like I need to Google it. No.
Brian Benben.
Yeah, Brian Benben, right? Brian Benben. He was doing a pilot, and I went into audition, and Brian Benben. I'm looking him up. Yeah, he's real cute. And I went in, and I remember the casting director saying, "You didn't get the job, and you need to be more confident." And I was like, "Oh, okay." That's like telling somebody, "You need to be more blue." Like, you need to be more sunshiny, or just something that's so like, what? How is that? How am I supposed to do that? You know what I mean? I just remember getting that note and being like, "Oh boy, I thought I was doing my best."
Yeah, you're doing improv. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. And
I was doing scripted. I mean, yes, improv on the
stage. Or just acting.
And then
I mean, it's not an easy thing to do if you're not confident, just in theory.
I mean, auditioning is terrifying.
Sure.
You're in a tiny room with people, and you're trying to have your lines memorized, and you're meeting people for the first time. So you're trying to like stay in the moment and have a genuine moment with them. And then that's also a weird turn to go from, "Hey, how's it going?" to, "Man, lights up." It's just weird. Everything about it's weird and hard.
And so was it around this time that you went on the dating game?
It was before then that I went on the dating. I went on the dating game probably pretty soon after I got to LA. I don't know how I...
Do you have to audition for... I guess you have to audition for that,
I don't even remember now. I don't even remember. I must have known somebody who knew somebody. Thank God I got that dating game.
Do you
But it was
remember your
like-
date? How did the date go?
No, I didn't get picked.
Oh, you didn't get. Oh, Oh, right. So you
I
were one
was
of the
one of the
women, not
three.
the. Ah, right.
Yeah. And it was also weird because it wasn't just a date, it was like a trip with this rando. And it's like, well, I don't know that I need to go on a trip with a rando. So it was
That's
okay.
right. They were all trips, weren't they? Like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember that game. It wasn't like just going out for dinner. It was like, an all expense paid package to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I don't know
You're
who
like,
the hell you're going. Well,
okay.
so luckily you
So it
lost.
all worked out.
And then you became, at some point, Rob Reiner's assistant.
Yeah. So I was working at the Intercontinental Hotel downtown LA. And there was a woman there who knew somebody who knew the Reiners, and they needed a part-time assistant. So I started doing that during the day and bartending at night. And then at some point, I crossed over to full-time assisting for the Reiners.
Mm-hmm. And was that an amazing job? I would imagine that would have been a really amazing job working for
It was
him.
pretty amazing. It was oddly stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Like assistant work is stressful. And you can't believe you're so stressed about little tiny things, but you are. But there were days where I remember the first time I had a drive on Paramount to drop off something for Rob. And I was like, I had my red Toyota Tercel that I had driven here from Florida. And I remember driving up to the big gates of Paramount. And I was like, said to the person, I have a drive on. My name is Cheryl Hines. And they're like, okay, Cheryl Hines, take it easy. You and your Tercel. So I just remember just driving on the back lot like, whoa, I have made it.
Well, in a sense, you did. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody gets to drive on the lot at Paramount.
Right. In a Toyota Tercel.
And a Toyota Tercel. And then I was like setting up his trailer because he was directing a film, and I just felt so in the know. I felt like, oh my God. I mean, the next step for me is being in the film. But it's not really a logical next step if you're the one like getting the silverware for the trailer and the sheets, you don't just go from that to be starring in a film.
In a Rob Reiner film.
In a Rob Reiner
Where's
film.
Cheryl? You know what, Cheryl? Get out of the kitchen. Get out of the Tercel and get in this movie.
Could you come in here? But they were so nice to me. The writers were so nice to me. And they would come to see my shows at the Groundlings and bring their friends.
Was it helpful?
Really...
I mean, in a professional way, ultimately? Like, was there any value that way in advantage, benefit of working for Rob?
Well, I mean, I wasn't on the set. I was really running around getting lunch and stuff. But it was interesting to see, like, I remember seeing a copy of Misery, the book Misery, and where Rob had gone through and circled words and underlined things. And I just remember like reading it and just being fascinated by what he underlined and circled. And of course, he went, I'm like, he directed that, right? Am I crazy?
I think he did.
Yeah. But so it were things like that I thought were, extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he directed. So there were little bits and pieces that I would just try to grab onto and pay attention to. And I do think it was helpful. Also seeing how successful people lived, but also had, they still have the same challenges as everyone else. So it's like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, I would imagine it was eye-opening on a lot of levels. People, people who watch movies and TV and, have favorite actors and directors and stuff, I guess they sort of project onto these people, celebrities, like who they think they are in real life, and a lot of times it's just, they got problems like everybody else and live like everybody else. And I would imagine from that perspective, just sort of watching the normal family Reiner instead of Rob Reiner, actor, director, producer. That was probably an eye-opening moment for you.
Yeah, because I remember one time I needed to take him somewhere, drop him off, and I was like, oh, I drive a Toyota Tercel that doesn't have air conditioning. And he's like, that's fine. It's like, Rob, I don't want to drive.
The Reiners don't need air conditioning.
I don't want to drive you. He's like, Cheryl, I don't. No, they called me Cece because there was another Cheryl. He was like, Cece, I don't care. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And I just thought, oh my God, this guy is the best. I just learned a lot. Yeah.
And so, and then you started getting TV shows and doing movies and all that stuff. And you got to work with people like Robin Williams, right? And RV, which is a really great, fun movie. I got to know you through Waitress and working with you on Serious Moonlight. And so I wanted to ask you, because I'm sure most people want to ask this question, like the highlight of your career for you, Space Chimps, right? Like that's, like you look back on that and you're like, that's my best work.
Space Chimps. Listen, I love doing Space Chimps. If you don't know Space Chimps, it was an animated film. Oh, it's funny because Andy Samberg is in it as well, and we were talking not that long ago, and he's like, "Yeah, I think they ran out of money halfway through animating it." I was like, "Oh, that explains some things." But yeah, Space Chimps didn't take off the way I thought it would.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to ask you a serious question now, and I'll probably take Waitress out of it because I don't want to put you on the spot. But like when you do look back on your career so far, and you've done some really amazing stuff, award-winning performances on of course Curb, and you've been in some really great movies. What do you look back on and think of as like, I wouldn't say a favorite role, but just something that either ended up being way better than you thought it would, and like it changed your whole perspective on it from when you first did it, or over time? Is there something that sort of has become something you look at and really, really proud of?
I mean, it's hard to say just one, because I definitely feel like there have been career-defining projects. Of course, Curb Your Enthusiasm it's crazy that we're still shooting.
It's like 20 years, 22 years or something?
Yes.
That's I saw that the other day and I couldn't believe that.
It's crazy.
It is.
And amazing, and who would have guessed it, Because when I auditioned for Curb, it was just a 1-hour special on HBO. It wasn't even meant to be a series. Mm-hmm. I was still working for the Reiners when I got Curb. It was really crazy because Rob came in and he's like, "Are you playing Larry David's wife?"
And are you quitting?
Yeah, because they were friends, Larry and Rob. And I said, "I am." And he said, "Why didn't you tell me you were even going into audition?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you every audition I'm going in for, because at that time I'm, going in for who knows what every other day." But he thought that was so crazy. And then, I took off like a week to shoot that 1-hour special. And then I started hearing rumors that it was going to be a TV show. People at the Groundlings were coming up to me saying, "Wow, that's going to be a TV show." And I was like, "No, nobody's told me. I haven't heard that." And I was still working at the Writers, and I was at the Groundlings, and I got a call from Larry David saying, "Look, this is going to be a TV show. Do you want to play my wife?"
Wow.
And I said, "Oh my God.
No, I have to work for the Reiners. There's laundry to pick up, dry cleaning to pick up. Sorry, Larry. Find somebody else."
I said, "That is the best news I've ever heard." And he's like, I hope that's not true. that can't be true. And I'm like, "It is." He's like, "Don't say that. That can't be. Oh God." And I was like, "Larry." And so it began.
That show is transcendent. It is beyond.
It's beyond. It is beyond.
And I find the thing for me that I love so much about it is, as a Jew, it's just it's loaded with Jews, but you play such a pivotal role there in that, especially when you guys were married, the balance of the non-Jew. Because when you kind of take the non-Jew out of it, and then it's a lot of crazy Jews. So it's the balance is so perfect. The casting was so perfect.
Well, it's funny because when we started, we hadn't talked about if my character was Jewish or not. It just was not, like I said, it was a 1 hour special. And then when it became a TV show, there was something going on in the show, and we were talking about it, and he said something, and I don't know if it was Yiddish or something that I just was not familiar with. And I said, "So what exactly does that mean?" He's like, "Oh my God." He goes, "Nobody's going to believe you're Jewish." I said, "Oh, I didn't know that was part of it. I mean, I can do some research." And he's like, "No, maybe it's just better if you're not." Mm-hmm. I said, "Well,
way better.
It's better for me because I
don't have to go study Yiddish."
So then there was a time when I was in Florida with my family, and somebody in my family had made a manger scene out of cookies with the toasted coconut for the hay, and they were walking around saying, "Nobody eat baby Jesus." And I called Larry and I said, "Can I just tell you what's going on in my house? And if you were here, you would eat baby Jesus and my family would go crazy." And he's like, "Oh my God, we have to do that." And he goes, "What else is going on down there?" I said, "Well, there's also like live nativity scenes." And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "People stand on their front lawn dressed as Mary and Joseph and they have a baby." And he's like, "That's not true." And I said, "It is. I'm looking at it right now." Mm-hmm. So he said, "Okay, we have to do a show about that." So it was funny because then it just added another, sort of layer.
I think it would have been a whole different vibe for you if you had to be Jewish, because then you would have been working for the Reiners, you would have been in the Groundlings, you would have been taping the show and going to Hebrew school, which would have, I think, been a lot on your plate, Cheryl. I know you can handle a lot.
I would have done it.
You probably would have. You probably would have been fluent in Yiddish.
Yeah. It's my goal. It's never too late, by the way.
I think it's everyone's goal, actually. Yeah. And so what, I know you've been asked a bazillion questions about Curb over the years.
I can't get enough.
What do you think is the magic of that show when you boil it just down to its core essence? Because there is a magic to it.
Yeah, I think it's, of course, it's Larry. And it's Larry is neurotic. He's neurotic in real life. And I think a lot of people that are neurotic in real life can't appreciate what's funny about it, but he understands it and is unapologetic about it. And and a lot of it is based on real life. So he's going through life, like, even when he's annoyed about something, he thinks, "Oh, that would be a funny show, because if I'm annoyed about it, odds are there are other people annoyed about it, or people that are annoyed that person's annoyed about it." So he can, listen, we have a lot on Curb. There are a lot of waiting room scenes. There are a lot of driving scenes. There are a lot of, they're just scenes where it's like, yeah, everybody does this and it's annoying. And I don't know why this person is doing this. But, on the show, he can, hey, you can't chat and cut or whatever you called it,
Right.
You can't go up to somebody and start talking and then just stand in line with them. That's not how it works. Which you want to say when somebody does that.
But we can't.
But you don't.
Right.
Yeah, you don't. You just sit there and you just, seethe.
Right.
But he on the show can do it, and then it's funny, and everybody's like, "Yeah, that's what I want to say."
Right. Well, he's channeling. He's doing what we all want to do in certain situations, and I agree. That is part of that magic, is that we get to live the life we want sometimes through him. The cut and chat. I mean, who hasn't been like, there was 2 people in front of me, not as 9. Like, what? How does that?
It's like, I see you. I know what you just did. You can't do that.
But the magic also is the way, the phrasing, like chat and cut. And one of the things that I learned after watching Curb, after a while, is that I started to see like Larry's influence on Seinfeld. Because like if you just watch Seinfeld, right?
Yeah.
And you don't really know Larry David. You see his name at the credits, right?
Right.
Then you spend a few years watching Curb, and you're like, oh.
You see all of the characters in him.
But just the phrasing, master of my domain, like all of that like writing technique and phraseology, and just a lot of the essence of it is, it's so easy to see Larry's imprint on that show, which I think is great, because I don't know if it ever bothered him, but like, during the Seinfeld run, it's like Seinfeld. Maybe it was Seinfeld.
Right.
And Larry didn't really get a ton, maybe in the industry he did, but just on the street, in the coffee rooms on Monday morning, that kind of stuff. Like, it's Seinfeld. And, but now I think a lot of people see his imprint on that show. But I think that genius of him and how he coined phrases and all that, it's just, it's really an amazing show.
He's like an icon now. He's iconic. Like during, for Halloween, people dress up like Larry David. There was a woman on Instagram who was she was just showing, she does a lot of fashion posts, you should try this top with these pants. And she did a whole thing about like Larry David influenced style, like blazers with a gray sweater underneath. And it was very cute. But it's like everybody knows who she's talking about. So you're right. It went from, it's of course Jerry Seinfeld being the famous one between those two.
But now it's,
which, by the way,
very different.
Hearing about them living with each other in the early Seinfeld days, it just really made me laugh when they were together, because when we were on Curb, we did a season where there was a Seinfeld reunion, which is pretty extraordinary when you look back at it. But Jerry and Larry would sit around and talk about when they were roommates in an apartment in Los Angeles, in West Hollywood, when they were shooting Seinfeld. And I was just like, really? The 2 of you living together, I just can't even.
Well, one of my favorite things I've ever watched is the comedians in cars getting coffee with Larry.
Oh, yeah.
And when they went into the little coffee place and they're talking, you literally can see and understand how they got together, how they worked together, why they were successful together, that magic that they created together, just in this 1.5 hour episode of this kooky little show that Jerry does. It's that, it's like Lennon and McCartney and Paul Simon and, Garfunkel. It's like 2 people that get together and like, boom, just something.
There's just something
happens.
Connect on.
I want to, before we end this amazing conversation soon,
yes,
I want to touch on a couple of things that you're currently doing. One is your podcast. I love your podcast. I've told you that I run to your podcast. Most of the time I'm running and laughing because it's so funny. And people see me down the street and I'm laughing, and then like I told you a couple of weeks ago, you had a more serious, I think it was Till maybe, and you talked about an open casket, and like it just triggered me with Adrienne, and I was like, and now I'm running down the street crying, and people think I'm crazy. Thankfully, not the same people. They're not like, wait, was that the guy who was laughing?
Wasn't he just
jogging yesterday? Yeah. Maybe he should find a different sport. But it's about documentaries, and you guys just sit and riff about documentaries. But the genius of that podcast is that you hardly ever actually talk about the documentaries. So just the two of you.
So Tig Notaro and I, we have a podcast called Tig and Cheryl True Story. Mm-hmm. And we do, we watch a podcast every week, and then we talk about it. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes we don't make it to the documentary.
Well, Tig plays the straight person, and she's like, no pun intended. And she's like, I guess we should get to the film, Cheryl. Like, she's always trying to bring it back. And then you play that role, because sometimes she'll go off on a tangent, and you're like, we really should talk about this. And it's just the two of you talking about how you're not talking about the actual subject matter. And that is, I find it hilarious. You have fun with that?
Yeah.
It seems like you guys are having a lot of fun.
Oh my God, we have so much fun. I mean, sometimes my face hurts. After
Cheryl, does your face hurt?
Recording.
Remember that old joke?
It is.
Does your face hurt? Well, it's killing me.
It's killing me. Yeah. Hilarious. But yeah, we really, and then sometimes you're right. Listen, yes. When we go off on tangents, a lot of times they're loosely related to the podcast. Like one time there was a Sasquatch, and then we really started to think about, then if there really is a Sasquatch, how did that happen? Was it like a bear and a lady had sex?
That's a crime, really. That was outlawed a long time ago.
That turned, and then, when we did March of the Penguins, the idea of what a penguin penis looks like came up because we just wasn't making sense. Like, how do they even do it if they're both standing there? And then what does that penis look like? And then we found out, and then we were trying to.
What does it look like?
Yeah. Well, our producer started looking it up online, and he said penguins don't have penises, which of course made us laugh even more.
That begs another question.
It does. So there are things like that we, seem to get stuck on.
Well, this is important stuff. The question of how does Mrs. Penguin get pregnant if Mr. Penguin doesn't have a penguin penis?
Right. Penguis. But all the answers are a penguis. Yeah, and we were angry that penguins don't have pouches for their little eggs, that they have to keep them on their feet. That seems unfair because other animals have pouches. So, give the penguins a pouch. That's where that came from.
Do you have to get them like what's that thing that people strap around their
baby Bjorn?
Yeah, or like a
booty bag?
Yeah, like
a belly bag.
Yeah, a bag. If you ever see a penguin with that, then that's a problem. And then you have an episode of Celebrity IOU.
IOU.
With Sarita, who I of course know very well. Where you and the brothers are
Property Brothers
are redoing her garage for her.
Right. So the idea of the show is that, they came to me and said, is there someone from your life that you would like to do something for them because they gave you so much? And I said, yes, Sarita, who started out as my personal assistant. And then when I got pregnant with Kat, I said, do you just want to be the nanny? And she said, I don't know anything about babies. And I said, neither do I. It doesn't matter. And so she just helped me with Kat, with assistant stuff. She did everything. And so I said, can I do something for Sarita? And then we got to go to her house and make over her garage into this really beautiful.
That's awesome. And I just realized I've been mispronouncing her name for the last 16 years.
No, we all did.
Oh.
No, because
it was Sarita, right?
It was Sarita. And then like 12 years later, she's like, it actually should be pronounced Saritha.
Oh,
like,
wow.
And she goes, yeah, I didn't. She said she didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we'll switch it up.
Well, I was Andy for the first. Then I became Andy at a certain time. Well, I've seen the trailer, and I got to say, this is among your hands down your finest,
best work.
Some of your best work.
Thank
I want to
you.
ask you about the process, like preparation. Was it method or more like Meisner? Like, how did you get into this role, Cheryl?
I wore a
goggles
onesie, goggles. They never call it a onesie. What do they call it? What do mechanics wear? Like
overalls?
Like a jumper.
Yeah, like a suit. Yeah, right. But I saw the trailer where you were like knocking something, and then like this plume of smoke, like just of dust and stuff, kept flying in your face.
By the way, it was rat poop that went flying into my face. That was rat poop.
Seriously?
And it went up, into my ears, down my jumpsuit.
From inside the wall?
Yeah, there was like a something, inside that clearly some sort of critters had been.
That's horrifying.
Well, yeah.
Did the brothers spray
Andy.
you, hose you down after that, or like,
No, they just laughed and they were like, "Good luck." Like, you guys, they were really fun though. That Jonathan and Drew, they were really, really fun.
And did you learn? Did you
really
walk
fun.
away thinking like, all right, I can sheetrock a room now? Like, are you gonna redo your own house now? Like,
I can sheetrock.
can you build a deck? Can you build me a deck?
I could. I know how to use a sledgehammer.
Mm-hmm. That's an
don't know how
important
handy that
skill to know. That must come in handy, I would imagine.
Yeah, one of these days.
I think just learning how to stay away from rat poop is probably the biggest takeaway.
I'm telling you, that was disgusting. That is one reason why I don't want to like knock out any walls. By the way, I'm learning that there are lots of things in walls. There are bugs and things living. But anyway.
So my last question for you. Well, I have two questions. I want to get a window into your soul. And one way we do that is to ask a couple of questions. The first one being, are you, and I think I kind of know the answer to this, but everybody else doesn't. But are you a dog or a cat person?
I am a dog person.
Mm-hmm. I remember Buddy well.
Buddy's still alive, by the way.
Buddy's still Get out! Buddy is still around? That's nuts. Yeah, I've slept with Buddy.
I know.
I've slept with
hasn't?
That little slut. Buddy, bet you he's packing 4 inches. Comedy callback.
Buddy is, I don't think he can see very well or hear very well, but he's still around.
How old is he?
Tiny. He's probably
19, 18.
Well, he's probably 13 or 14.
That can't be.
Oh, maybe.
Well, you would know more about your dog. But
well, no, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's more like.
I've slept with Buddy like 15 years ago.
That really
Buddy's
sticks
older
in your
than
memory.
You. It was memorable.
Buddy's been lying to me for so many years about his age.
But yeah, Buddy was always my favorite.
He's very cute. He's very sweet. He's a tiny. What kind of dog is he? Tiny little
Yorkie, right?
Yeah, Yorkie.
So you have Buddy and now I have a big one.
Well, now I have 3 giant friggin' dogs.
Jesus.
Gordon setters and a short-haired something. Hunter.
Mm-hmm. And
I don't know what they are.
And you've never had cats? Like, you're just not a cat person?
I mean, cats are fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have cats. I don't like kitty litter, and I don't like hair. Cat hair on me when I walk out.
Mm-hmm. So you don't like rat poop. You don't like kitty litter. I see where this is. There's a theme there.
I don't like dog poop either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second question we ask is, what better way to tell a person's to get a window into that person's soul than music, right?
Mm.
So
yeah.
I want to know your top 5 musical artists of all time. all time.
Ooh, of all time. Of all time. Okay, well, let's see. I would say all time. I would say, of course, Aretha Franklin is like nobody's better. I love the Rolling Stones. These all make me sound like I'm 100 years old. I am really loving Brandi Carlile.
Oh, love Brandi Carlile.
God dang it, she's so good.
Best. I cried.
And I love, oh my God, and I love Dwight Yoakam.
Mm-hmm. You're a little bit country.
One more. I am a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and I love. What else do I love? I don't know. I mean, it's hard because, when you think of music, it's hard not to think of when you were sort of growing up and becoming who you are. And that really had an influence. Like back in the day, loved Prince, loved Prince. But do I sit around today, like wake up and listen to Prince? Not really, but I do love, And I love Gladys Knight. Okay, then I'll leave it at that.
I think that's 5. Is that 5? That's 6.
That's 6.
Wow. You know what the interesting thing is that in all the times we've asked that question, I think we got the Beatles once, which is heartbreaking for me because, like, to me, there's the Beatles and then there's everyone else. But it's just interesting because some of the answers are so eclectic, and I've been turned on to people that I've never heard before, and I go home and I listen to stuff online, and so it's a really fascinating process for me to go through. But just hearing the different types of answers, and the Beatles, who at least I thought would be in everyone's top 5, they're often typically not, which is fascinating.
I've never really been a big Beatles person, but also I don't know. It just like. And listen, are people either a Beatles person or a Rolling Stones person?
Right. Well, you've made it clear which side you're on.
They're
both
this
amazing.
Girl likes to rock. Yeah. I mean, the Beatles are, they're like, bing, 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 bing. And the Rolling Stones seem to be so soulful.
They're like, bing, the bing, the bing, bing, bing. Keith Richards is like,
Exactly.
Well, Cheryl, you have been amazing as always. You were very generous with your time. It was great to catch up this way as well.
Yes,
we are long overdue. Now that we are disembarking from COVID, we have to do this in person sometime. But thanks again for coming on. Say hi for me.
Thank
to all
you.
Your many peeps. And
I will. And say hi to Sophie Dopey.
I will. Take care.
Okay. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.
So there you have it, episode 30 in the can. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a message at 845-307-7446. Email us at backroomandy@gmail.com or tweet to me at Andy Ostroy. And please leave a review if you like what you hear. Those things are important. I want to thank my co-producer, engineer, and editor, Maddie Rosenberg, associate producer, Jen Hammoud, Cricket Langale for our artwork, Andy Hollander for our kick-ass music, Patricia Wind and the Epicurean for the Backroom Studio, and a big thank you again to our guest, the amazing Cheryl Hines. So keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards. Have a great holiday, whatever you're celebrating, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Have a great week.